So, welcome back. Here we are again. This time, telecom towers, a network necessity or a telecom asset. We're joined today by Alfonso Alvarez, who's the Deputy Managing Director for Cellnex UK. Alfonso has worked for Cellnex for over 20 years and has been part of driving its international expansion. He joined Cellnex UK in 2019 with a clear focus on organic growth and business diversification around telecom infrastructure for mobile operators, big corporations and public bodies. He is extremely busy, has been very effective clearly over the last couple of years. So we're particularly grateful that he's taken the time to join our conference and speak about the shift of operators from treating their infrastructure as a burden into treating it as an asset. Alfonso, thank you very much for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Graham, for this kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning, almost good afternoon. First of all, in my name and on behalf of Cellnex Telecom, thanks for the opportunity. I'm aware that within the audience we have collaborators, even some colleagues from our company, but also agents and landlords as well. So I would like to take the opportunity for explaining a little bit who we are, what's our vision for the future, what are the opportunities we believe will arise in this telecom market, and how we can engage and create productive, let's say, collaborations. So allow me to share some slides with you, okay? It won't be long, but I think the first important concept for all the attendees to understand is where did we start? Where are we today at what we're intending to build? Cellnex Telecom as a company was created in 2015 with our IPO from our previous shareholder, Abertis Telecom, but we have been a Spanish company for decades. As you can perfectly imagine, I'm one of the lucky guys making part of the old team coming from the Spanish business and leading all this international expansion, which has been a very interesting adventure. We were only Spanish in 2014. That was the year we closed our first acquisition of telecom assets in Italy. It wasn't a small one with some hundreds of sites and thus systems covering tunnels along the highways in Italy. And then all the story you all know, our IPO, the Cellnex Telecom, and the quick international expansion. We are in up to 12 countries today. Interesting to comment not only deals about towers and masts. We have also closed some interesting deals. For example, in France, we are building along with one of our main customers, Bouygues Telecom, brand new fiber network covering all the country. That implies fiber to the tower, fiber to the data center itself, and the evolution of the old core network owned by the operator, the classical BSCs, MNCs, to the new concepts more connected with 5G, metropolitan offices, central offices. So the fiber connecting all these telecom premises where we have a net participation, we will be the owner of the asset, and also the commercial agent for other MNOs interested in using that infrastructure. Another interesting example is our recent acquisition in Poland from Telecom, where we have acquired from the MNO not only the physical assets, the towers and the masts, but also the active equipment, let's say emitting the carriers and also the radio links for the access connectivity and a lot of fiber connecting all these assets with the core network. So our first message could be, yes, we are a tower co, but we want to be more than a tower co with the classical concept. We want to help our customers to create synergies in their deployments, to be more present in all the densification of the network, and we are making progress. One last information about this slide. We are here declaring 130,000 sites, but on the left part, 89,000 active sites. So this big number of sites is the combination of what is active today and our build-to-suit programs contractualized with the MNOs. And this is good news for everybody because that means that the MNOs are building new sites in 2021 and the coming years. Mostly rooftops, they are densifying the coverage for the 5G rollouts, but they are building new sites. So the opportunity for all the value chain to still provide services, and I mean landlords, agents, infrastructure operators, MNOs, etc., is still there, but the perimeter is changing and the needs are changing. Okay, in terms of international competition, if we look at the Western European markets and America, etc., we are now the second operator globally in terms of number of contractualized assets, which is very good news. If we compare ourselves with our American peers, this business, as you perfectly know, was invented in the US. And it's, let's say, a motivation for proud for Cellnex to lead globally this market as well from Europe, which is honestly much more difficult because it's a big number of countries, quite small countries compared to the US, for example, a lot of MNOs, different languages, so the difficulties are bigger and we are very proud. But the other side of the coin, we are also feeling responsible of how important we are now for our customers' networks. And that means this story is only possible if we have the right SLA, the operational performance, the KPIs our customers expect from us. And this, again, depends on the whole chain, landlords, agents, suppliers for operations, and infrastructure companies like us, okay? What do we do? You perfectly know our business. You are experts in this sector. We provide mainly infrastructure, towers, rooftops, etc. We are now emerged into the 5G wave. That means rollout of new sites, redevelopment of existing masts and towers, because the configurations, the setups are much heavier, and in a lot of cases you need to ask for additional permits, negotiate with the landlords additional space. You know the story, okay? But what we are trying to do is, even if we are focused on this new wave of the rollout, not forgetting to look at the future and to diversify our activity. That means identifying other areas important for the MNOs and the society in general around telecommunications, and where, as a neutral host, as an independent provider, we can be supportive. And on this next slide, I'm showing very quickly the different angles we are looking at this connectivity ecosystem, in particular in the urban areas. Of course, we have telecom sites, rooftops, and towers. We believe the small cell market hasn't taken off yet, but it will. The discussion is, with the numbers and volumes the market expected 5 years, 10 years ago, well, who knows, probably not so big numbers, but we definitely believe that when the macro site piece of the 5G rollout will be completed, the MNOs will have a clear interest in densifying their coverage. The problem there is this needs to be done at the right cost for the operators, and the opportunities for managing other portfolios, maybe not the classical rooftops and buildings and lands, but other assets, and I have a couple of slides about it, will be there. And we need to understand how we can create business out of those assets. Well, another area where we are very active as a group, but in particular in the UK, is connectivity for transport. There's an opportunity for the railway in all Europe. It's not well covered. In the UK, the importance of railway for weekly daily commuting is very, very high, and the coverage is not good. And this is something, of course, we need to engage with the MNOs, with the public authorities, etc., for creating the right combination of factors for making it commercial and possible. Last year, we were awarded with Brighton Main Line, a concession for us to build all the infrastructure for covering this corridor end-to-end for the MNOs, of course, using network assets and building new assets. It will imply the coverage with DAS systems of 3 main stations, London Bridge, London Victoria, Clapham Junction, all the tunnels along the corridor, and of course, towers were needed for the outdoor track for increasing the signal. This is an area where we believe we could be key in all our countries with our, let's say, creative and supportive financial models for the MNOs. Also, if you want the more commercial approach in trying to play with all the needs for passengers and railway authorities and also for the operators, we are used to those difficult challenges, trying to make the most of the different combination of interests, and there's definitely an opportunity there. We are also trying to push our business around private networks. This is mainly focused on big corporations, preferring to have their own connectivity for example, automation of their industrial processes, the so-called Industry 4.0, but also logistic areas, ports, etc. It's not probably a massive opportunity in terms of number of users, but very important for the transformation of the industrial ecosystem in the country. Very soon, we will have good news to share with the market about it, our first project one in the UK. And it's very important to note that the UK is one of the European countries with the most flexible legislation in terms of access to the spectrum, which is also very important for these big corporations to have their own frequencies for these deployments. It's not the case in other countries when you need to engage with an MNO for going for these projects. We are looking at that, okay? We believe there's an opportunity, probably not particularly interesting for the MNOs, but with real needs for the, let's say, enterprise sector, and we can be of help as well. And one last point I wanted to mention is densification of the connectivity, not via small cells, but indoor. We are also an active DAS operator. As an example, we are operating a DAS system at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, and lots of other cases in other countries, Juventus Stadium and San Siro in Italy, Wanda in Madrid, the underground, the rail I mentioned. So we believe there's also an opportunity for the indoor coverage, looking at the future and not only looking at the MNOs, because of course their budgets for increasing indoor coverage will be limited. And we see there's a growing trend among, for example, the real estate owners in providing indoor connectivity as part of the services they offer to their tenants, like light, electricity, or water, or whatever. So why not trying to be also supportive with the right cost and engaging with the MNOs for providing the signals for supporting this increase of the indoor connectivity, okay? Well, here in the UK, we are now over 300 employees. I'm sure you are aware that we closed the acquisition of the telco business of Arqiva last year. We have circa 9,000 active assets. And if you remember my first slide, I was declaring around 14,000 in the UK. This is because we are considering the agreement we have signed with CK Hutchison for the acquisition of the assets in the UK. This is still pending for the CMA decision. So we are here considering only the active, 9,000. And a net investor. We landed here in 2016, and we have been acquiring assets and closing deals and investing in our own infrastructure for example, the 5-year developments in an important way, okay? But so far, probably all these messages would not be very different if shared by other tower costs, okay? So, I mean, big investments, deals with the MNOs, trying to do DAS, trying to deploy small cells. It's very much on the hype, all these trends. Why do we believe we are different? Why Cellnex is different? Well, first, we are not a real estate group. We are not just wanting or aiming at having a number of assets and allowing the operators and other customers, not necessarily only the MNOs, to enter our sites and share these spaces. We are an engineering company. We want to lead the transformation of the connectivity in our society, supporting the MNOs, but as I said before, also the enterprise and the public bodies, smart cities, etc., connectivity for railway, for example, in a sustained way. And we believe we can be creative enough and entrepreneurial enough to lead that transformation, okay? This is all about long-term contracts with our customers, being those MNOs or public bodies. For example, the concession we have with Network Rail for Brighton Mainland will be 25 years. Okay, so we are a net investor. The market is receiving very well these messages from the companies specialized in managing passive infrastructure, but even going a little bit beyond and trying to create opportunities in sharing also active equipment. And this is our view towards the future. As I mentioned, for Poland, you can imagine that if in Poland we buy the active equipment from one of the MNOs, it's because in our idea, we are trying to invite other MNOs to join a system in which via RAN sharing or other formulas, we can make the most of that active equipment. This is all about our DNA. Investments on things that can be shared for more than one operator and creating value and savings and synergies for them. And looking at the future, I mentioned the small cells and indoor, fiber to the antenna, and not only the antenna with our traditional concept of the tower. If we believe small cells will be an important component of the network, that means fiber to the lamppost, fiber to the street lamp, fiber to the traffic lights, fiber to the bus stop. So there's a synergy among the classical telecom asset and the new urban ecosystem where we can play a key role, edge computing as well. Okay, and why is this happening? My point is, should we understand why the MNOs are monetizing the assets? Because if we want to look at our business in the future, we need to understand what's happening in their business, in our customer business. Well, the MNOs are in Europe and globally, but in particular in Europe because of our particular disposition. Not very big countries, legislation. We have the European Union. The UK now is out of the European Union, but different entities and different regulations, for example, about competition. The MNOs are suffering a lot. Their top line revenues are quite flat. The average revenue per user is not growing. The EBITDA margin is going down. The investment cycles are shorter and shorter. The amortization of 4G is not even at midterm when they start to think about the 5G investments. They are investing on the networks, but the classical discussion about the neutrality of the networks. But who is making most of the money about connectivity? Probably the OTTs. This is Facebook, Amazon's, and Google's of the world. So this is another challenge for the mobile operators. They are investing on the network, but they are not seeing a lot of return. There's a strong control by the financial markets about their ratio net debt versus EBITDA, and this is not improving. And then that is also true. Customers are not loyal. There's a strong churn. There's a strong control by the antitrust authorities and the competition authorities for them to be in a strong battle in terms of fees to their customers. In a few words, they are suffering a lot, and they need to find solutions for increasing their financial capability. This is where they decide to monetize the assets. There's also an operational reason for this. They agree that having the coverage is not anymore making the difference. It's about the service. They are not fighting amongst competitors in terms of who covers first. The coverage is more or less the same. So they understand that owning an asset is not a value in itself anymore. And an infrastructure operator creating synergies and operating the assets and creating savings is the best way. So what we try to do is, with the strong financial support from the market, because this message, this idea about sharing infrastructure is very much supported by the financial markets, we try to create synergies. For example, decommissioning. This is something that in the UK was led by the operators themselves, when they created MBNL and Cornerstone in the past. But in other countries, we still have 3 or 4 MNOs and 3 or 4 networks. So there is a strong opportunity for us at decommissioning and saving money. And with this monetization, they win via the and leaseback process, they can have access to more CapEx for them to deploy what they need in the coming years. And this is a new opportunity for us as well, because they have to build more sites. These new sites should be built already with this concept of sharing. So we are there for the build to suit, the DAS and small cells, the fiber to the antenna, etc. Of course, for doing this, you need an experienced team and you need to be independent. And this is very important because when they decide to go for a monetization project, they need to feel that they are not losing the control of the quality of the network. And this is got in an easier way, let's say, when the tower provider is neutral. Okay, I will jump one slide and we'll come back. When I am speaking about neutrality, well, the towering is very much on the hype. If we see the news, the past months, even yesterday, Orange confirmed the official launch of Totem, a tower co in Spain and France, with the possibility of increasing the number of assets with other countries. Vantage Towers was created and IPO'd last year. We have, let's say, something to say about it. First, we are happy because it's the confirmation of our vision when we started to believe that there was in Europe an opportunity for asset consolidation and for doing things in a more effective way. The operators doing this with their assets is for Cellnex a confirmation of that. But it's also true that these companies are vertically integrated with their shareholders. I mean, they declare to have a commercial view and they want to, of course, sell services to the other competitors, to the other operators, but they are not neutral. So every service contracted by Orange on Vantage or by Vodafone on Totem means they are also financing somehow their competitors. I'm sure you are seeing clearly that the value of neutrality is very important here. The operators, technically speaking, need to feel that the quality of the network will be equally supplied to all the tenants, the towers, but at the same time, there's a financial battle among the operators. So our view is these tower vehicles trying to replicate our example and other tower costs is very much a financial move. And we need to see in the future what happens with these vertically integrated towers. We don't believe it's the same. And probably the market doesn't believe it's the same, being independent or not. Then we have interesting situations. For example, in Spain now, we have Cellnex with our legacy portfolio coming from the broadcasting sites we acquired from Telefónica, MásMóvil and Orange. Now we will have Vantage, Totem, and American Tower because Telefónica sold the remaining towers in Spain, Telxius, to American Tower. That means 4 tower costs, big ones, in the same country. So we are all declaring that we will grow selling services on our towers to the other operators. I think that an analysis about the potential market and the opportunity should be done somehow. Another reflection is the big multipliers that the last deals we are seeing around the globe are getting. I mean, these are very high multipliers. So this is also very important. The message about sharing infrastructure and creating opportunities is there, and we believe in that. But of course, you need a return on your investments, and you need to create a sustainable company, not short-term financial models, okay? Going back to this slide, why do we believe we are different? Okay, because as I said, we are not just looking at the asset. This is not our vision. We want to do more things. We started as a traditional tower co. This is needed. You are able to propose, let's imagine, to Hutchison or O2 in the UK, innovative solutions for doing more things when you are also significant for that customer. And that means you need to have assets and they need to know you, okay? Okay, all the build-to-suit programs, site hunting, commercialization rights on the portfolio. This is something we have also signed, for example, in the UK with BT High Towers. We are not owning the assets, but we have the commercial rights. We have completed also this second stage. Our third stage was going for the active infrastructure via small cells, DAS, And with the Polish deal I mentioned before, we are also present now managing the active network for the mobile network. So the active piece. So the evolution of the relationship between the MNO and the TowerCo, Cellnex in this case, is very much evolving, aligned with our vision. And other opportunities will be born here because we know that the radio access network will be probably more based on virtualization, probably in 5 to 10 years. And we can play a role there if we own the fiber or we engage with other operators to provide a mix of fiber and towers. So our vision, this was defined in 2015, is very much aligned with the real happenings in the market. And this is another motivation for us to feel we are on the right track, and the operators will be open to sharing their views about the future networks, edge computing, slicing, etc., having the current models with the tower operators, but probably also innovative models. Okay, 2 last slides. Let's look at the opportunity, okay? Because I have been describing our market as tower cost, what's happening, etc., but looking at the future opportunities for landlords, agents, etc. Okay, we are in the middle of the 5G transformation, the 5G rollout. This is impacting all the network. There will be a strong demand of urban assets for the densification, probably not earlier than 2 years, but between 2023 and 2027, probably the small cells will start to be more and more important in the networks, again, at the right cost. And the asset will be different. We will have a mix of private assets. Why not assign towards the street owned by a shop owner, and that can be also a telecom asset. The public assets I mentioned before, the street lamps, etc. So there is an opportunity there, which is not only about the asset itself, the situation, but will be about how difficult it is, the planning, to arrive with the fiber, to put energy, to use it for more than one operator, because the current model we are envisaging for the small cells is that each operator will be having similar needs in the same areas. The crowded areas are always the same. So this utilization of urban assets needs to be also scalable to more than one operator. Okay, so there's an opportunity also for the agents to interact with asset owners, and this can be perfectly municipalities, and try to engage with operators like us or with the MNOs for them to use these assets in a sustainable way. We have, as you probably know, the 14 concessions in London boroughs in the UK, but we also, not in an exclusive way. I mean, the exclusivity about the assets is probably not the trend for the future. We have signed an agreement with Glasgow as well. And we are now speaking with up to 10, 12 new municipalities for trying to having rights, again, not exclusive, for us to offer these possibilities to the MNOs in their small cell rollout. Last one. Okay, the market is evolving and we need to understand it, and we need to look at the opportunity, all of us, because this is a chain. Again, landlords are providing in the past lands, rooftops, maybe in the future. Of course, those assets will be important, but other opportunities are arising. We really believe in the quality of our relationship with landlords. We always say that no landlord, no site. That means we are investing a lot in pursuing brilliant relationships with our landlords. If you understand my point, customer care, considering that our landlords are somehow customers as well. And this is what we want to build for the future. We have the electronic code, and we need to be aware that this has impacted a lot the way landlords and telecom companies are closing deals and renewals. We definitely believe that the code is needed because of the many reasons I shared with you before. about the telecom operators, their financial conditions, and the need to reduce costs if they need to increase their presence, densify coverage, etc. Even with the application of the code, we have the flexibility and the financial tools for closing good deals and for maximizing the value. So this is another message I want to share. Our team in charge of landlord management is trying to use those tools for increasing the perception, the satisfaction of our landlords. In parallel, internally, we are investing on IT tools. Okay, you can imagine that we acquired the Arqiva business last year, so we are now closing the integration of the processes and the systems with our Cellnex footprint and corporate systems. Landlords are an essential part of the let's say the IT tools we manage for our business, and this will be detected in the coming months by our landlords that the quality of our engagement is increasing. And following this path, we believe in closing better deals, okay? And diversification is also important. We are speaking about the small cells, about the trains. So specific needs will be born, and we need agents providing us with services for closing the right deals for these sites to be built, okay? Also indoor, this is very important. I would like to raise a flag about it. Let's try also to look at the negotiations, not with landlords, but maybe with real estate owners, with people interested in increasing the coverage, and we will definitely look at it. And last one, landlords are happy if they have income. That's life. And even applying the code, we believe that Cellnex expansion can be also got with happy landlords. So please don't hesitate in engaging with our landlord team and having discussions about new opportunities you are looking at. They will also look at that with this commercial mindset we are trying to put in everything we do in the market, okay? Thanks a lot. That was a little bit my presentation today, and I'm happy to answer questions, if any.
Alfonso, thank you very much. Yeah, we have got some questions that have come in. The first one, I think, may well be going to the heart of your commercial proposition, what you were just talking about. It's from Tom Bodley-Scott. Hi, Tom. Cellnex and other wireless infrastructure operators are in the market to acquire long leases and interests at an upfront premium. To what extent do you see this as the way forward to engage with site providers?
Well, it's very much connected with the need of closing deals at the right cost for the operators to engage with. So I would say that this is the need of realism. Site owners, I insist, an important piece of the chain, need to understand that the operators are having their own challenges in their business, and they need to invest a lot of money every year to invest and to spend in their operations. So we believe that this sort of agreements with, what sort of payments, etc., is a right balance between the needs our customers have and the value we can share with the landlords, okay? And happy to consider some flexible modalities about it, but we will do more things and we will create also more opportunities for landlords if we can also have the return of our investments, okay? So that means investment on one side, but also OPEX, the annual cost of the lands, and it's mathematics. You can be commercial for doing more things for the operator if you are also profitable. And this is what the market is looking at companies like us. It's in theory a simple business. You are providing sites to more than one customer. You are increasing your efficiencies, saving money where possible, and having the right site at the right cost. So I know that sometimes it's difficult to look at the past and compare it with the future, but the future is more complicated, and the traditional rooftop and land will be there at the right cost, but the new asset will have a completely different economics.
Great, thank you for that. A fairly simple question now from Susan Craig. Is Cellnex a code system operator? Do you have the statutory powers?
Yes.
And potentially following that up, how do you see them being used if you don't have the active operational requirement yourself directly as a company?
Well, honestly, I'm not an expert on this. So for concrete questions about the code, our colleagues from real estate will be happy to answer in detail. But yes, we are a code operator, and I'd say that we are trying to apply the code, but also from a reasonable point of view. Okay, and we have closed some deals with our landlords. We are satisfied, and we believe our landlords are also satisfied, analyzing what's happening in the market. So I think it can work, and it's not only can work, we need to make it work. Otherwise, the operators will stop rollout and the business will stall as well. Okay.
Very good point. Thank you for that. Next question from Andrew Mallard. How does a tower company model meet the intention of the code to drive down costs, releasing funds for reinvestment, when we're told that the landlord costs are too high? So balance between the operator paying a landlord directly, but then you coming in with all of your requirements, commercial requirements.
Well, the logics behind the code are very similar to our needs. I mean, it's not very different, the contract signed between an MNO and a landlord and between an infrastructure company. Of course, we intend to install more than one operator on the same site. So in our contracts, we are also considering that. We have different elements for trying to share part of the value we intend to create on the site. Okay, but again, it's all about economics. Having 4 MNOs on the same site doesn't mean you can pay twice the rent, 4 times the rent, because there's no economics there and the operators will not come. You also have to pay the maintenance, etc. I don't want to be repeating myself, but it's about the right economics. It's all about that.
We understand. Thank you for that. And this is potentially a more interesting question given your European global footprint, from Phil Morris. Do you think other European countries should introduce a similar example to the UK ECC, the code, or do other markets not have the same site provider landlord versus operator relationships that we've got in the UK?
The answer is definitely yes. I mean, the electronic communications code is something very useful if you look at the increase of connectivity and the deployment of future networks. Other countries are looking at that. It's more difficult, I mean, for countries inside the European Union, because all agreements have to be, let's say, negotiated also with European authorities, but it would be great to have something similar in other countries because the costs of network deployment are much under control and the operators can do more with the same money, which is not only our objective as Cellnex. The sector, the vendors, the landlords, everybody wants the operators to do things and to deploy new sites. They need to have efficiencies for using their money. So it would be great.
Brilliant. Alfonso, that's all the questions that we've got. So thank you very much for taking the time out to explain your position and the benefits that your approach will bring to the operators and therefore releasing money for further investment.
My pleasure.
Public interest. That's most kind. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Next, we will have Infralink and a helping hand to mobile deployment, and we will reconvene at 11:35 to hear from Sarah Einan. So thanks very much, everyone. See you again at 12:35.